guys, welcome to today's video. My name is Ajane for those of you who are new, and today we're going to be talking about what happens when my patients deliver at another hospital. How am I involved? What does that look like? How did that come about? So I wanted to just give you guys an insight to what goes on whenever my patients do deliver. Okay guys, so I work at a big general organization. They have several different hospitals in the St. Louis area and region, and I work with other social workers at other hospitals, like more specifically labor and delivery and NICU, to collaborate whenever a patient delivers. Now, it's very unique because my clinic is typically going to be the only clinic in the St. Louis area that I will then follow my patients typically outside of the hospital setting. So I'm technically an outpatient social worker, and I don't work weekends, I don't work nights, I'm not on call or anything. So I work like office hours. And with that being said, it's sometimes because I live in a large city, not the largest city, I live in a large city, in the St. Louis area, there are different hospitals. So depending on where my patients are at that time or how close they are to another hospital, oftentimes if an ambulance is involved and or depending on how far the patient is with delivery, they will go to the nearest hospital. And oftentimes that's not my hospital. And so we've had instances where moms deliver at another hospital and they deliver their baby there. So because I am an outpatient social worker and I've typically seen or I'm expected to see the patient throughout the entirety of their pregnancy, I typically have the most information about mom, about baby's possible name, the father of the baby, their address, their living situation, their stability, if they're in sobriety, if they've been in and out of sobriety, if they're still in active use. I know it's kind of a lot. So I typically get a lot of that information throughout their pregnancy. Initially, when they come in for their first or second visit, I would do a consult or an assessment, and that's when I would get this information. So once they deliver at another hospital, then the social worker can kind of see if they're part of our network, the patient's chart. So they'll be able to see that, oh, she's had multiple social worker encounters. Let's open up those notes. Let's read those notes and see what this is about. They would then call me or email me, reach out to me somehow, some way, and say, hey, we have this mom here. She delivered on this day and had this baby on this day. And we're wanting to know if you are going to do the report, if I should do the report. So there is one hospital that a lot of our babies get sent to if they have any additional needs or any additional medical care that is just not going to work at our hospital. If they need more intense or severe treatment or care or medical things, they will get sent to the specific hospital. So oftentimes, 7 to 8 times out of 10, our babies will be sent to that hospital. So we've collaborated with that hospital social workers, and we have created a plan per se. Okay, so this plan has different scenarios. So scenario one is my patient delivered at my hospital and the baby was delivered at my hospital. In that event, I will make the Children's Division referral. I will inform mom. I will let her know. There's sometimes when the mom delivers the baby and I meet with her, I complete the Children's Division, referral, and then maybe 2 days later or the day later or later on that day, the baby gets transferred over to whatever hospital. I then will reach out to that social worker at that hospital and I'll tell her, hey, I've completed the referral. The information for the Children's Division worker is in the chart. Please send me your information, best contact information to reach you at, so that I can then give her that information, because really at that point, all that's needed for me is done. At that point, Children's Division wants updates about the baby. They want to know if mom has visited the baby, called about the baby, if she's still at the hospital or if she was discharged from my hospital. So at that point, that social worker at that hospital with the baby takes over, because that is Children's Division priority. Children's division priority is not the mom anymore. It's going to be the baby. So whenever the baby's born, that's children's division priority. That's their patient. That's their client. And so I will make the report, but if the baby gets sent over there, I will let the children's division worker know, hey, the baby's here. This is the social worker that will be working with the child and the family moving forward. If you need anything else regarding mom or your drug screens once they're resulted, I will send those over to both of you. So I try to CC them. So there's also a scenario where I've had a mom deliver at one hospital, not my hospital and not the hospital where most of our babies go to, and deliver at another hospital, and then the baby was sent to that hospital where a lot of our patients go to. And so there's three of us trying to navigate how to go about this. So at that time, I didn't 100% know that mom had delivered. So that social worker saw that we had notes in there, and I then found out that she was over there. So I spoke with her. She agreed that she would do the children's division report. I told her that if she needed any additional information, if she needed to talk to me about anything, if there's anything that I could give her, to let me know, which she was totally fine with making that report. And then looking at all of my notes to fill in the gaps where maybe she had some questions. I was very adamant about possible placement. Like, I've talked with this mom and her possible placement, and we've discussed the home visit and the background check, and this is her support system. This is some of the things that's key things to know to share with the children's division worker, but they can always refer back to me. Here's my number, here's my email address. And so we go about it that way. And then that social worker with mom made the report, but then she has to give them information about the baby. So she ended up having to give the information at that hospital where most of our babies go to if they're like more sick, that social work information. But then that social worker emailed me and was like, hey, who's making the report? And so it can get a lot when you have multiple people working on one family. And so it's good to stay organized. It's good to stay in communication with the other social workers and just like have an open form of communication and open line so that everyone can be on the same page. So my suggestion is to have everybody on one email address, including the children's division worker, and say, hey, this is this person that you can reach regarding this. This is this social worker for mom while mom's inpatient at this hospital until she's discharged. This is the child's children's division work. This is the child social worker at this hospital. If you need any medical updates, any, other updates regarding the family calling or how they interact at the hospital, this is the social worker to reach for that. So I think it's good to have all of that organized, but it doesn't happen a whole lot, but lately it has been happening a lot more recently where a lot of our babies have been more sick and needing to go to the hospital. And so I collaborate with that social worker or those social workers regarding that child and make sure that that social worker feels confident enough to know a little bit more about mom. And their, like I said, main goal is to worry about the child, because if moms typically are discharged within days. Sometimes if a baby's sent to another hospital, it's going to be several weeks possibly that the baby will be there. And so after that point, my encounters with mom are just my encounters with mom. They don't really have a lot to do with the baby. If there are any updates or any concerns that I have regarding the mom, like maybe she's not coming to her postpartum care, she's not answering the phone call, she continues to be in active use, I have to share that with the children's division worker and that social worker who is working with the baby and now the family. And so it's good to just like have all of that communication. But typically once our babies leave, I'm kind of done with them. Like I said, I'll give you drug screens, court results, any key points that I think should be shared with that social worker, but I don't typically open that baby's chart that often. I might check in and there out, check in here and there, especially if mom's coming in for a postpartum visit to kind of understand her case, because some moms don't understand what's going on, or some moms have a false idea of what's going on, and it's kind of like a delusion of like, oh, I'm taking my baby home, but children's division already has taken custody. So it's good for me to be aware of what that it looks like, and so I can also warn my staff like, hey, this is going to be a sensitive subject today. just beware that she did not get custody. And so that is something that we can do in order to make sure that she gets the best care. And that we aren't like, oh, look, let's see pictures of the baby, especially if she hasn't been involved in that process or seen the baby or allowed to see the baby. So that's typically what happens. Is I work with the patients when they go out of our network and go to another hospital and deliver. But I work mostly with the children's. But I work mostly with the social worker at the hospital. But that social worker then takes over the case. I have very little involvement at that point. I just try to get updates from mom and children's division worker and the social worker here and there, but I try not to involve myself because it can get confusing when, like I said, there's multiple social workers, multiple hospitals involved. But typically I will make the report, especially if they've delivered at my hospital, and then the baby goes, or if the social worker doesn't feel comfortable making that, which I don't understand why you wouldn't feel comfortable working that, but sometimes they're just like, well, you have more information you can give, to the children's division worker, which is fine. But sometimes I'm just like, if I've only met her once, I'm like, you just make the report because you have I have no new information. I don't really have a rapport with the patient, so it really makes no difference if she came once. So yeah, that's pretty much what happens when my patients deliver. So that's pretty much what happens when my patients deliver at another hospital. It's not too bad. It may sound confusing on camera, but it's really not too bad. You just have to communicate with that social worker about what's going on. So we try to do that. Ironically enough, both of the social workers that work at the hospitals that we typically have our patients deliver at worked at my hospital. So we've all worked together before, and so it's easy for them to be like, okay, I know Ajane, she'll, follow back up with me, or I can just reach out to her, and that's totally fine to do that. We have had other hospitals who don't make children's division reports because they don't have access to my network's charting and like notes and stuff, and so sometimes we do have patients that slip through the crack and they don't follow back up, and then we don't know that they delivered yet. So we've had some instances where we've made we've made reports even after the baby and mom were sent home because there was active use, and there could be active use that, we still need to report. And so we hope that they do, deliver at our network at least, so that the hospital can have access to the notes and know more about the patient and how to care for the baby and the mom. So yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed this little video. It is bright early. I haven't even barely took a sip of my coffee. And yeah, I'm house sitting and dog sitting. So I just wanted to sit down and make this video for you guys. But I hope that you enjoy this little bonus video for the week, and I will see you guys later. Dealing with a cold, so if I sound horrible, I apologize. Cheers. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys later, and bye guys.